Hi, my name is Kevin Callahan. This is a reading of an essay by me for Olivet College, Professor Dodson, creative writing class. Watching him grow up around motorsports, I could see that Tanner was a living science lesson on gravity, inertia, momentum, and centrifugal force whenever he was around a wheeled or motorized device. By the time he was 10, I was sure he was part cat and had used up a few of his lives. I'd seen Tanner back a quad down a trail without him sufficiently checking to the rear, only to watch the ATV drive up a tree backwards until the laws of gravity took hold and brought the ATV and kid back to terra firma in rapid fashion. I'd seen him experiment with inertia as he rode a perfectly good bike straight into a grove of pine trees as the trail turned in a different direction. Most off-road riders want to be one with nature, be one with the trail. Not my kid, nope. He always seems to want to be one with the tree. Most people see a rock on the trail and roll over it. Not this kid. He sees it as an opportunity to load the suspension by pushing down just prior to the rock and lifting up as he goes over it to go airborne. He turns a small rock in a turn into a jump at the exact moment the trail turns hard right and expects the bike to fly right as if controlled by some CGI trick out of Hollywood. He finds his tree. They are now one, and he has firmly wedged himself between two large branches. He just used another life. Tanner watched videos growing up as a kid of Travis Pastrana. Pastrana was a dirt track motocross and supercross rider that transitioned into X Games Moto X freestyle rider. He performed backflips, no-handed jumps, and was the first to perform a double backflip while on a 350-pound motorcycle. He was to the next generation what Evel Knievel was to my generation. My son wanted to emulate Travis Pastrana. Perhaps this was why he rode the way he did. Perhaps this was why he continually experimented with science. Well, here was the day I had finally said yes. Yes, Tanner, you can ride my bike at Silver Lake. He had always asked every time we loaded bikes into the trailer since he was about 10. It was part of the ritual. As we would ratchet strap my bike where it belonged, he would clear his throat. So, you need me to ride this for you? Check it out and make sure everything is working right? I would always just look at him. We had done this hundreds of times. This day we repeated the ritual and I looked at him as I always did. Yep, I stated. He paused and I could tell that even though I had said yes, his brain had heard no like normal. Suddenly he grinned. He was giddy with excitement. He turned and ran out of the trailer screaming a victory cry as if he had just scored the winning touchdown of the most important game of his life. After about 30 feet, he suddenly stopped and turned to face me. The smile gone from his face. You're being sarcastic, aren't you? He asked. Have I ever been sarcastic with you? I asked him. All the time, Dad, he quickly retorted. I grinned, as I knew that I would torture the poor boy from time to time with sarcasm. Well, I'm serious this one time, then. We continued loading up. I'd never seen him work so fast to help load. We went inside to let everyone know we were all loaded up. My daughter caught my eye as she was finishing up a movie in the living room. She had recently taken a liking to the original Superman from when I was a kid. She had watched it several times and couldn't get enough. We loaded up and headed towards Silver Lake. Tanner grinned the whole way, when he wasn't talking, that is. He was like an endless chatterbox on some possessed doll that I had mistakenly pulled the string on. It didn't stop. Once we got there, he started the bike almost immediately as it came off the trailer. He didn't even have his gear on. There were still more bikes to unload and the four-seater buggy. I wasn't sure what he was thinking, but then I can't think like a teenager, even with that phrase being an oxymoron. I knew the bike would overheat if it sat running too long in the midsummer heat and humidity, and I told him to shut it off. We quickly unloaded everything, and everyone put on gear they needed to stay safe as humanly possible, while hurtling themselves across the sand and watching for the occasional intellectually challenged driver. I had ridden Silver Lake for years. I can tell you that I'm in favor of renaming sand. Calling it sand doesn't give it a sense for what it feels like. Oh, sure, walking on sand with no shoes on is one thing. Playing on the beach is the same. It feels forgiving and it sucks you in. When motorsports are involved, it should be renamed loose concrete, because it is very unforgiving at high speed. This was my concern. It always had been. That and then those pesky, intellectually challenged drivers. The first rule of Silver Lake is you always ride the dune at least once at lower speed. The wind can cause the shifting sand to totally change the landscape in 24 hours. You ride it once to see where the danger zones are. He did. Good. Maybe all my talks are finally starting to sink in, I thought to myself. He stopped at the top of Test Hill where we were sitting. The top of Test Hill is usually the best vantage point. You get to see all the different variations of 4x4 vehicles conquer the hill. You get to see everything from a $100 beater Subaru Outback with no doors or hood to the full travel California dune buggy. Those buggies can wheelie, walk Test Hill, and launch 100 feet off the backside and land smoothly like a cat dropped softly from high up. There is a reason they cost significantly more than $100. As Tanner took off, he told us to watch for him. My relief that he listened to all my dune wisdom was short-lived. He came around his second time. I heard the hearty grunt of the four-stroke as he lined up for Test Hill. The bike had plenty of power. He came up the hill, and around 20 feet from the top, the realization hit me that he was carrying too much speed. The hill always drops away at the backside. You always want to be creeping as you crest the hill unless your last name is Pastrana, Deegan, or Villapoto. He had been told that numerous times. The individual science lessons were all about to become one. He launched off the hill into the air. It was at this point he realized his speed and angle carried him up while the hill dropped away beneath him. You could visibly see him tense up as his brain processed his current dilemma. Gravity took hold. He started dropping. His first inclination appeared to be to see if he could fly by flapping his arms. He flapped. His legs moved as if he were running through the air, as if his running through the air would help when the flapping didn't work. Gravity is still holding the upper hand and reeling him in. He is separated from his bike as he pushed it away. It is a now useless tool in his soon successful bid to become a flightless bird. Inertia has been invited to the party now. He comes down onto the loose concrete, feet first, at a steep angle with his feet planting like an awkward off-balance gymnast. Inertia still wants to play and invites his friend Momentum to the party. They carry Tanner's upper body forward in slow motion. He can now fly briefly as he looks like Superman with his arms outstretched in front of him as he is parallel to the ground. He clears 10 feet of ground in this position. Gravity still wants a piece of the kid and pulls him down hard. He lands helmet first into the sand, and momentum carries his feet over his head into what is known as scorpioned. His feet have come over his head and touched his helmet, and the human body is not meant to resemble a scorpion. He somehow manages to pop up like a weeble back to his feet. This move is never recommended until you have taken inventory. Are all the parts still there? Are they still facing the correct direction? Is anything broke? What's my name and how did I get here? Do you remember everything that happened? Did you just wake up here? Momentum still wanted this last farewell as it pulled him back to the ground on his back. In a panic only a parent can understand, we scramble down the back side of the hill to see if he is okay. He lays there gazing straight up at the blue sky. I ask if he is okay and he says yes. I ask if anything hurts. Other than my pride? No, Dad, I'm fine. Trained professional, I think to myself. My daughter, youngest at 8, screams out, Tanner, you look like Superman, as she sticks her arms out in front of her and kicks a leg back and goes, making her Superman music. Anyway, my assistant, thank you to